Hey everyone, welcome back to PC Perspective. I'm Ryan Shrout. Today we're going to talk about a new super high-end graphics card release from AMD, the HD 7990. Now I know you might be thinking, well, this card already came out. But actually no, it didn't. It came out from some partners and now it's actually being officially released by AMD in its kind of reference form. Now, we had a bunch of cards sitting around the office and we thought we'd do a quick show and tell just as some of the history of AMD's dual GPU cards. We could go back as far as the Radeon HD 5970. This is a 2 GB graphics card. You can see on the back, we've got our two GPUs on it. In that same family, but obviously a higher end product, was the original Asus Aries. Now this is a dual GPU, but it was actually two full speed 5870s. Whereas 5970 was cut back. This actually had 3 8-pin power connectors and it weighs literally as much as all the other graphics cards combined. This was the HD 6990. Now this is a 4 GB graphics card. It was one of the first to go with all the mini DisplayPort connections. It was kind of an interesting design. It had a central fan on it even though the GPUs were split between it. And it only required 2 8-pin connectors. And this one's a little bit harder to show, but this is the Aries 2. So this is what has previously been known as one of the HD 7970s already out on the market. You can see this is a big graphics card as well. And it even has a water cooling block associated with it, a self-contained water cooler. And you can see that it's much taller than a normal graphics card, and it requires 3 of those power connectors up there as well. But the card we are introducing today is this. This is the Radeon HD 7990 reference card. It's essentially two 7970 GPUs, but they are going to be clocked a little bit lower. We're talking about 8.6 billion transistors, again combined for the two GPUs, 4096 stream processors. You've got 6 gigs of memory running at 6 gigahertz, and they claim 8.2 teraflops of theoretical compute power on this card. If we go to the overhead here, you can see the design. It's a little bit different than other ones, right? So it's got 3 fans across it. It has the heatsink actually goes the entire span of the card. The GPUs are split on the back. We require 2 8-pin power connectors. If we look at the front panel, there's actually support for 5 simultaneous displays, not 6. If you want to go with 6, Infinity 6, you're going to have to get one of those mythical MST DisplayPort hubs if they ever actually start to sell them. But you do have 1 dual-link DVI and 4 mini DisplayPorts, so you can get a lot of display action there at least. And it does have a crossfire connector as well if you want to pair this with another one for whatever reason. Now the interesting thing here is it does use a, we're not showing it here, but maybe we'll have another shot later that has the PLX bridge chip that is 48 lanes of PCI Express 3.0. It is 96 gigabytes per second of available bandwidth between the two GPUs. So they claim that there should be no performance disadvantage, if anything, a performance advantage of having the 2 cards on the same PCB. Now what I should note about these fans is something very important. When the release of the GeForce Titan, when it was released, it was an incredibly quiet card, and that was one of the selling points for it over the 690 or the other 7900 cards out on the market. AMD claims that this is quieter than the Titan, which would be quite a coup and quite a change from what the Radeon 7900 cards, how they currently fare up against the Kepler GPUs. So we'll definitely check our full review for information on sound levels and that kind of stuff. It is longer than the 690 or even the Titan. Let's see here. I think I have a GTX 690 sitting here as well, and if you kind of look at the length comparisons, you'll see that the 7990 is, a full inch longer than the GTX 690. So there are going to be some maybe case and spacing considerations in that regard. But I think if you're looking to buy a GPU like this, a graphics card like this, that you are prepared for that type of scenario. Now, AMD has done a lot of work on game bundles at this point as well, and the 7990 is not stopping that in any way. In fact, you'll get 8 games if you buy 7990. You get BioShock Infinite, you get Far Cry 3, you get the Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon standalone, which is actually pretty awesome looking. You get Crysis 3, you get Tomb Raider, you get Hitman Absolution, you get Sleeping Dogs, you get Deus Ex Human Revolution. So with all those titles, even taking into account that some of them are a little bit older, like Deus Ex and discounted rates, you're talking at least $300, maybe as close to $400 in free games with this graphics card. So that's actually a significant consideration when looking to buy something like a Titan or 690 or an HD 7990. Performance, that's obviously what you guys want to know about. Our early testing shows that the 7990 is not as fast as a pair of 7970s in Crossfire. It's about 5 to 7% slower in our testing, and that is, I think, because the clock speeds are a little bit lower. The top clock of the 7990, each GPU is 1 gigahertz, whereas it's 1050 megahertz on the 7970 gigahertz edition. But I think because of the power constraints on this GPU, or on this card, on the 7990, that we're probably running lower than those clock speeds for more time than we would be with 7970s in Crossfire. That kind of explains the 5 to 7% performance delta we see in that regard. Now, comparing it to the NVIDIA products, it is a little bit faster than GTX 690 in most of our benchmarks, and it is significantly faster than Titan, than the GTX Titan in most of our benchmarks as well. But that doesn't always tell the whole story. Since the release of our frame rating, benchmark, and analysis tools and systems that we've been talking about for quite a while here, if you follow us on YouTube or at PCPer.com, there are significant issues with AMD Crossfire in terms of game performance. And unfortunately for the HD 7990, it is in a full-time Crossfire configuration. If you want the power out of that card, if you want the full performance out of the card, you are enabling Crossfire all of the time. So anything that shows up as a runt frame, anything that shows up as a dropped frame would still show up on the 7990, and our performance results show that if you look at the full review. I will say that if you look at your standard benchmark methods, if you look at 3D Mark, you look at those types of things, and you kind of use this as a gauge for if AMD could fix everything, where would the performance of the 7990 be? It would be ahead of the 690. The GTX 690, it would be ahead of the GTX Titan. Both of those cards offer different highs and lows, pros and cons, positives and negatives over it. The Titan is a single GPU. You never have to worry about CPU scaling issues. It's also very quiet. It's more power efficient. This card is going to use more power than both of those options as well. But that's in a perfect world, and we're not in a perfect world yet. So one little thing that I'll tease here, and you guys definitely need to go to PCPer.com, view the full review with all the benchmarks and analysis of the data for this card, because when you get into a Crossfire configuration, there's a lot more discussion that needs to be had. It's not simply a faster card for whatever amount of money it is and go buy it. You need to pick what games you're going to play, see where there are potential issues, and see where there are no issues. Now, right before this kind of went live, we got a prototype driver from AMD that supposedly starts to fix some of these frame metering issues. So I don't have any results from that yet when we recorded this video, but if you go check the review of the HD 7990, I'm sure we'll have some of those early tests in that to kind of say, okay, this is where the direction they're going, and yes, we think there's an improvement. So if we're comfortable saying that, it looks like in a couple of months they're going to have this all the way fixed, then we might be able to recommend the 7990 more strongly maybe than we could otherwise. So make sure you check out the review for that. Now, pricing is still up in the air as well. AMD has this ridiculous thing that they do where they don't tell reviewers the price until the very last minute. So I'm going to guess that it's going to come out at $999, the same price as the Titan, same price as the GTX 690. If it does that, then everything I've already said comes into play. There are Crossfire issues, and that's a concern. I would hesitate to buy this card with all the Crossfire issues that exist for $1,000, knowing that the Titan and the GTX 690 are out there. If they were to sell this for $899 or $799, I don't think they will, but if they do, now it's a much more compelling solution, especially when you consider all the games that you're going to get with the 7990. If they were to sell it for $1,100 or $1,200, I think that would be crazy. They'd be committing suicide with this product. Hopefully they're not doing that, even with the game bundles, especially considering all the performance issues that we've brought up over the last couple of months or so. So my takeaway from the HD 7990 is kind of what I expected it to be doing my Radeon HD 7970 Crossfire testing with frame rating over the last couple of months. So there are still a lot of issues. I have reservations recommending this card to anybody is going to invest $1,000 in a GPU and a single graphics card for their gaming PC until all of these crossfire performance issues are completely ironed out, until we're confident that AMD is addressing them in a 100% way. And they may have made the first step with this review, and maybe they actually have not. So you have to check out, again, the full article for that. I'm not holding it back for you on purpose to make you go to the article, basically because we don't have all this information yet. So thank you guys for stopping by. It's an exciting time for PC gaming. There's a lot of products and technology coming out. And even if we can't 100% recommend this product yet, it's sure nice to finally see it out in the wild, since it was promised to us back in like January of 2012. So again, check out the full review at PCPer.com. I'm Ryan Shrout. Thanks for watching.